This episode is brought to you by Muntons Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntons has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntons offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntons malt. You know, we've known the Muntons crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntons malts, or homebrewers can join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club, be a part of the community, and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntons, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsterette.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsterette.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsterette.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsterette.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsterette.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
An interview with Kolsch Cup 2023 Grand Champion George Kolcun. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 338. It's always something. It's always something. What the crap? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or get yourself a $25 gift card when you call and leave a voicemail question to 325-305-6107. I'm your host, Joshua Stubman. Today is a fantastic, we haven't done a homebrewer showcase episode in forever, and this one's especially special. This one's great because we have the 2023 Grand Champion for our Kolsch Cup, Mr. George Kolcun. George, thank you for joining the show.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Dude, I really appreciate it. First off, I appreciate that my equipment doesn't work. I hit fade out. Fade out! Gosh, the music, I went wireless. Like I got this Bluetooth adapter for the board, and we use the iPad for controlling stuff. So I was like, oh, it should be great. I'm like batting, zero actually, because I've had an issue every episode. But anyway, and I also appreciate your patience. People don't realize when I tell them, lazy might be the right word. Yeah. Every time we have a guest on, I'm like, oh, we record it like it's live. And you hear all the bumpers, and they're like, can't you just add that in post? I'm like, that would require me to edit the show. I don't want to do it. But so I appreciate your patience sitting through and all that.
Oh, sure.
My friend, like I said, I know you're actually a working professional. If I remember correctly, psychologist?
That's right. I'm in my office in San Francisco right now, as a matter of fact.
This whole episode was a ruse, so I could just talk about Todd. And I need you to work me through some stuff, man.
Yeah.
15 years of trauma. And no, he's actually great to work with. Todd,
all right. Yeah. I'll send you a billows were done today.
Yeah,
As we finish up.
Send it to tburns@kegconnection.com. It'll get paid immediately. If you send it to me, it'll get paid in $25 gift cards. Anyways, my friend, let's start this off with any Homebrewer Showcase episode we do. It's about highlighting you. And again, this one is special because you won the contest and I don't know. So if I was a smarter guy, I would have sent your trophy and all that a long time ago so you could have shown it off. That would have made more sense for this episode, but I just sent that stuff out yesterday. Your whole Grand Champion package has been shipped out to you yesterday from Texas to Bay Area. I bet it's USPS, it's FedEx. Probably 5 days.
Something like that. Yeah.
You'll send me a photo when you get it so I can update our socials. But before we start, I was hoping you'd wear the shirt that I used for the artwork. Let me put it up on the screen. You can't see it, but did you have that shirt made after you won?
That was a Father's Day present for my wife after I won. So
dude, she's
very excited to give that to me on Father's Day.
Ever, King of Kolsch. Oh, I love it. I gotta find out where she made that. But I can't wear it. There can't be more than one King of Kolsch. Your Kolsch first and second and third were close, but you won pretty definitively on all of our scorecards. I think you'll see. I think you got 2 perfects and a couple 49. It was incredible. And we'll get to the development of your recipe and all that. But let's start with your history as a brewer. Have you been in the Bay Area the whole time? Was craft beer your entry into then hey, I could do this? What got you into the hobby of homebrewing?
Yeah, I lived in a building when I first moved to San Francisco, and my wife and I met a couple who lived on the bottom floor, and she was a chef at a restaurant here, and he was a homebrewer. And they'd have us over for dinner, and she'd cook these incredible meals. We'd drink this great beer, and so I started joining him for brew days, and kind of one thing led to another, and I kind of got my own setup, and the rest is kind of history. But really good guy. He's no longer with us, but Jeremy Barna, thank you for all the knowledge you've given me and carrying on your home brewing tradition, remembering you in that way.
That's awesome. Was it all grain or extract when you were introduced?
Yeah. He would always, I learned how to do all grain. And when I first started brewing, it was extract for a little while. I made the change to all grain pretty quickly and, noticed the significant improvement there. But I think I made some pretty good extract beers while I was just kind of getting the process down.
When we were at Homebrew Con, we were at the booth with our friends at Munton's, and I would argue 95% of people know them for their canned extract. And one of the points that they were making, because I'm with you where even James historically has said, I can tell the difference every time.
Yeah.
But when you're using a premium extract, man, you can make some really good beer. They was doing the taste testing. James Pitt, they weren't asking us to choose which one do you think's all grain, LME, DME. They just said, choose which one's your favorite. And one of the days for, I think, the English Porter, James picked the DME, which he was like, no way, what? I was like, yeah, man, you can make really good beer with extract. But do you remember what your first batch was when you did your first solo brew day?
It was a kit. It was probably an amber. I think it was an amber ale, I don't know. Friends drank it and said, thank you very much. But I noticed as I got better, one of the things that changed was friends would ask me for a second beer. And that's okay. Now I know that I'm on the right track here if they actually want more than one.
That is funny because that's how I feel. My pop and I, all of our beers mostly at his house because they do all the hosting. And when we see people go back for more, it's okay, they're not just appeasing my ego.
Because, right. Yeah.
Believe it or not, this isn't a shtick. I have a very fragile ego, even with my family. So if I see them sipping a beer and make a face, I'm like, what's wrong? What did I do? But when they go back for more, that first batch being an amber, was that based off of your lights with craft beer, or was it just availability at your local shop?
I think it came with the I got a kind of brand new to brewing kind of kit that my wife gave me for Christmas, and I think it came with the amber kit. But not my favorite, but amber's a decent beer. I don't know how I did there, but I probably wouldn't like it very much if I drank it now. But
if you said it already, I apologize. What year was this, or how many years ago?
I started brewing myself about 8 years ago. Yeah, started about 8 years ago. There was a pause. We moved from San Francisco to Marin County, where we live now, and there's probably like a 9 month pause there where things were a little too crazy to actually brew. But I brew like probably every 3 weeks now. I got brew days become kind of a little bit of a get together for friends, and it's usually Friday afternoon, so it kind of turns into a little bit of a party, which is always a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I love parties. The equipment you started with, what, like, especially if that first kit was with Extract, you just used the stovetop kettle, you used the bucket to ferment in, and then you bottled?
Yeah, bottled everything. I mean, I think that was another significant improvement, is going from bottling to kegging. Was like, okay, this actually tastes a lot better. It's like almost immediate improvement and the ease of kegging is just, that bottling day was no fun, no matter how good the beer was. I just didn't enjoy that part of the process. So
we did our talk at Homebrew Con about draft, and I had the opener talking about bottling versus kegging. And I think I went on way too long of a tangent about I hate bottling. Like it wasn't good. Thankfully, no one from the AHA was really in there to rein me in, so I just did whatever I wanted. But I've bottled once, and I bottled a batch with Todd, and that was enough for me to be like, I don't want to do 52 bottles or 53, whatever it is, for a $5 batch. It wasn't enjoyable. So 8 years ago, you're doing that. You have the basic equipment. When you switch to all grain, did you start upgrading all of your gear, or what was that? What did that look like?
Kind of piece by piece, but I mean, the first was like the big cooler mash tun, and I have another cooler for sparge water, hot liquor tank, and I got a new kettle not too long ago, a bigger kettle, and like piece by piece, you get fancier and fancier stuff, and it's my go-to Father's Day Christmas presents usually involve brewing equipment. So
I've told family and friends before. I mean, for me, I'm not the average bear because I am in the industry, so I have access to this stuff. But my friends and family who get into it and like, oh, what's a good gift for Uncle Ted or whatever? And it's like, they're brewing now. You have gift ideas for the rest of time. As long as
never-ending list of one more nicer, shinier thing. Totally.
Always nicer and shinier things. Regardless, like Todd and James brew on the Brautag Herm setup, and they have conical glycol chilled things, and they still have their eyes like on certain pieces of equipment, like the net spinning for hot or cold. Is your cold side still buckets, or what are you doing on the fermentation side?
No, just a plastic fermenter. I have an old wine fridge that I've converted into a fermentation chamber, and that's another big, like, temperature control was another huge upgrade. My garage can get pretty hot in the summer, but this little wine fridge chugs. I just made a Mexican lager and fermented it at 50. And I was like, all right, this is the test to see how it does. And I was able to hold it the whole time. So that helps a ton. But I don't have the fanciest fermenter,
I like that. I like that you ended up winning, because some people get very scientific with brewing, and I appreciate those people that they have the budget to do that, but they're brewing, like I said, like a Herm setup maybe, or even a rim, something that is super controllable the entire time. Because you're still using cooler right now for your brew day? So my dad and I will sometimes still do that, and I find the hardest thing is achieving consistent. Like if I brew a Kolsch in July or I brew a Kolsch in November, there's a good chance the variation of temperature switch, because we brew outside. And so the change in that mash tun during that hour could be a few degrees, which may put you in the alpha or the beta. It can give you a substantially different tasting beer. Have you had issues with consistency in batches, or do you not normally brew the same bit?
I try and be fairly. This is a recipe that I've brewed a ton of times, and like there are little tweaks, but I do like it's gotten to a place where I really like it. So I want it to be consistent. I also think like we have a big Mother's Day barbecue every year, and I usually make the Kolsch for that, and everybody kind of knows that's what's happening. So like I want them to remember what it tastes like and kind of have it taste similar. But I think I can get pretty close. Our climate's pretty consistent here. Like we kind of top out at like 80 and we bottom out at like 55, and that's kind of what it's like for a lot of the year. So we're spoiled with being able to brew outside. As long as it's not pouring rain, we can brew outside all year.
How is so many parts of California so perfect? Because y'all aren't really near San Diego. We were just in San Diego for Homebrew. And one day it was like 77, and this dude was like, "Oh, it's a little unseasonably hot today." I was like, what?
They got it just about perfect there. I mean, that's as good as it gets.
It was incredible. The only complaint I have, because I don't go to California a bunch, the Pacific is cold. No one told me that.
The water's cold.
The water's
really cold. Yeah.
I should have known when we got there, and the only people on the water were in wetsuits surfing out there. Mm-hmm. The beach was packed. Tons of people just lying on the beach. I was like, no one's in the water. And then Todd was like, yeah, dude, look at the sign. It's 62 degrees.
Yeah. I was like, the water's cold. That's definitely true.
I'm 98% body hair, and it was uncomfortable. It was way too cold. Sorry for that image. I'll edit that out. No, I'm not going to edit that out. So in the Bay Area too, you got historically great craft breweries in there. I mean, the one that comes to my mind, and I'm kind of mad at them right now, Anchor. I'm mad because they killed the Christmas beer officially. Yeah,
Christmas beer is so good.
It's so good. And we were wondering why we couldn't get it this last Christmas. I bet they weren't distributing as much. But I say they killed it. Is it taproom only, or did they flat out kill that and now they're not distributing Steam outside of California? Or I forget what the announcement was. Do you remember?
I think they actually have some of the Christmas beer on tap now. So I think because they brewed a whole bunch of it and they decided not to distribute it. So I don't know for sure, but I think that's what it is. But they have a new tasting room that I went to a couple years ago. That's really cool. My old neighborhood in the city was really close to the brewery in Potrero Hill, and you could smell brew days. You could kind of smell the mash. You kind of just knew they were doing their thing. But still love Anchor Steam. It's a great beer.
Oh, it's so good. California Common. Yeah. And that's a fickle style to recreate. Like I have an announcement later for listeners for a different style, and I have notes to get to that. But the California Common is also a kind of a fragile style. Like, there's a fine line between bean and style, and it tasting more like an amber lager or something, as opposed to but when done right, like Anchor is just obviously perfected. Yeah. What other craft breweries in your area are like your go-to?
I'm a big fan of Hen House that's in Sonoma. They just opened a new location the next town over from me, which is great. But their beer is always solid. It's always super good. There's a brewery in Berkeley called Fieldwork that I'm a big fan of too. They have really, really good beer, and they have a location in Marin. And then Cellar Maker is in the city, which is, I think probably my favorite of all of them. Cellar Maker's a pretty amazing brewery. They do some great things there.
When you are visiting a craft brewery and you're enjoying because you seem like Todd, where you're trying new things, right? Like you're not dead set on, like some people might say, I just want to drink Kolsch all day. And I'm okay with those people. I accept them. Or breakfast stout when it's cold. That's all they want to drink. I get that. But when you go and you try a new style, whatever, and you haven't brewed it, do you find inspiration from these craft breweries to either duplicate what they're doing or try to at least attempt just the style, if not duplicating that exact beer?
Yeah, I think so. I was in Denver actually when the Kolsch Cup was on YouTube, and I was on a boys trip with a bunch of my high school friends. We got to watch the results all together, which was a blast for me to actually win it and have them all around me as we were going crazy. But we went to a brewery in Denver that was I'm blanking on the name now, but it was all Czech lager. It was all Bohemian lager. They had the menu set up with like
is it beer?
Play-Doh.
Is that Bierstadt? Maybe
it wasn't Bierstadt.
Bierstadt. That's just lagers, but not Czech lagers. Yeah,
this is Cohesion. I think it was Cohesion Brewing, right in the city of Denver. But just delicious Czech lagers. They had one. Most of them were lighter, but they had a darker one too. And after that trip, it's kind of next on my. I've never brewed a Czech lager, but I was like, man, this is just delicious. Great summertime beer. I try and brew for the seasons a little bit, and that's just is delicious. They really did a nice job on it.
Yeah. Have I told you though, Kolsch and breakfast stout is every season. It's incredible.
Yeah. You can get away with it. Kolsch for sure. You get away with Kolsch all the time.
Kolsch. Yeah. Well, and you made it earlier. You made it sound like, so this recipe you did,
I made this in, it was probably like mid-March that I brewed this, maybe late March.
But how many, you didn't come up with it just this year. You've brewed Kolsch before.
Oh, no. Yeah, I've brewed it for a while, and I've tweaked it and changed it. And, it's pretty, I don't even know how close it is to where I started at this point, but it's, and I think I tweaked some things on this last iteration of it. It wasn't exactly the same as the last time I made it.
Well, yeah, let's get into it. So starting with what got you into Kolsch? Like, do you have local craft? Because one thing I noticed in San Diego at HomebrewCon, and one thing I've noticed with Texas breweries, Kolsch is having resurgence is probably the wrong word, but it's having its day right now. There's a lot of Texas breweries doing Kolsch style blondes, and at HomebrewCon, at club night, almost every club, and I say almost every, there was 10 to 12 of the 40 clubs that showed up that had a Kolsch on tap. A lot of people doing Kolsch. What do you have a local variant that got you into it first? I don't want to be so egotistical to think like you listen to the show and I wouldn't shut up about Kolsch. So you tried, like, what got you into Kolsch and saying like, I want to try and brew my own?
Yeah, I think there is a local brewery called Fort Point in San Francisco that brews a great Kolsch, and they distribute a lot. So it's in the store in cans all the time, and a great warm weather beer too. They just call it KSA. And I think that probably was part of it. But I think honestly, it was like one of the first beers that I could make consistently well. And I was like, all right, I'm going to keep doing what I do well. I'm going to, when I made a beer for my daughter plays soccer. And at the end of the season, I made beer for all the parents and on the team. And when I was trying to figure out what to do, I was like, well, I'll do the Kolsch because I know it's going to come out really well. So I think partly because it just tasted so good was the reason I kept brewing it.
Kolsch is a people pleaser. Like, and people who give me crap about it will eventually always write me. Either they found like Fru or Reisdorf in their local store, the import, or they have a local one. That's a good example of Kolsch. And they'll write back in and go, okay, I get it. Because it's not like this sophisticated, complicated thing. It's a people pleaser. It's as opposed to like people love to crap on macro brewing because they're American light lagers is gross, and I'm a craft beer connoisseur, but they're obviously doing something that makes gazillions of people spend gazillions of dollars every year on it. And for me, I'm like, well, what if we got people who enjoy an American light lager into beer with Kolsch? That's a great middle ground kind of gateway drug to better beer. And like you said, what I found too with Kolsch, I've messed up a batch or two before, but when I have my temperatures right on brew day and my fermentation, it's a very easy style to master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. It is. I do think it's kind of a gateway beer too, like you're talking about. Like when I have friends that aren't that into craft beer, this is kind of a gateway drug style.
Yeah, give them their fits, man. I do it all the time.
That's right.
Sorry, Pat. Let's talk about the recipe itself, if you don't mind. When we used to be in the ingredients business, we'd always be like, "Oh, we're like the first winner of Kolsch Trip. We actually sold his kit." With yours, I'd love to later do it as a Trub Club recipe. We just did the Kolsch, so I don't know. Maybe at the end of this year or early next year, but at some point, I'd love to because people like mimicking what has good results, right? And there's a gazillion different ways to do a Kolsch. And so, yours might be the one that people brew and go, that's what I've been missing. It was a hint of this or that. So let's break down the Kolsch. You brewed a 5-gallon batch.
Yep.
And what was the breakdown of ingredients? What was the build?
Really simple recipe. It was 9.5 pounds of Pilsner. I use, for this batch, I used Pilsner malt from a local craft maltster called Admiral Malting. They do all kinds of great stuff. So, but I don't think I've used their Pilsner in my Kolsch before. But, and then a 0.5 pound of white wheat I put in there.
For body.
And that's the total grain bill there. And that's the whole thing. I do this time. The slight difference here was the initial 60-minute bittering charge was 0.5 ounce of Magnum. I haven't used Magnum at all in the Kolsch before, and then a 0.5 ounce of Sterling at 10 minutes, and then a 0.5 ounce of Sterling at flame out with like 20-minute rest.
You're kidding me. Did Todd pay you to say this?
No, I know there's a Sterling debate among you guys. So
No way.
That's what was in there. That's what was in there.
Stop it.
Yeah.
This is the best moment of the show ever. I'm going to edit you saying something else than Sterling because Todd, as soon as he watches this, he's going to text me. I'm not going to tell him. I'm not going to tell him. No way. What? I mean, obviously, what made you, so Magnum, I've never used Magnum. If I don't use Middle Fruit, I almost always used Mount Hood. Like that's been my go-to kind of swap if I can't get Middle Fruit because of harvest or availability, whatever. I would never think what have you always used Sterling in your?
There's always been a little bit. Yeah, there's always been that bittering charge at the 60-minute has changed. I mean there was a time where it was Hallertau Middle Fruit, and there was a time where I just used whatever was in the freezer just to kind of get rid of old stuff. But Sterling's always been the late hop edition has always been Sterling. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to inject the don 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 like just because, like you said, Todd did a Sterling pills, and the Sterling for the bittering is where I think he messed up. Because it added way too much peppery type. Yeah. When you chose these hops, the Magnum made sense. Like for the bittering part. For the Sterling, were you just trying to get a little bit of top spices? I'm not spice, but I guess spice. Like, were we trying to give it a little bit of bite in the aroma, or what was the idea with the Sterling?
It's always been a part of it. It just kind of tastes like Kolsch to me. It just really kind of has there's definitely some spice and a little bit of fruitiness that I think does a nice mix with the yeast, and the rest is in the glass. It just tastes great.
Oh no, yeah, I can vouch for that. It tasted great. Yeah. Your water, do you build a profile?
Yeah. I use RO water now. I just started doing that about a year ago. But our water, I was doing water additions. Our water changes so widely throughout the year based on how much rain we get and how much. And so, even with testing it once a year, I wasn't able to be consistent with. And there was a couple of beers I made where you could really notice the water was off. But I used RO water with this. I don't have I think I might have just used the Cologne setting on Brewing water.
Brewing water.
I don't even remember what I did, but I did add some salts to it for sure. And I use, I adjust pH before I even start the mash there. So that all went into the mash water.
Would you say, having brewed a Kolsch, a bunch, and tweaking it always, where does this stand? Like, let's say, take your top 10 batches of Kolsch. The one you sent in to us, was this even your favorite batch that you've ever brewed?
This was up there, I think. I think the extra couple weeks helped too. The fact that the competition was pushed back a little bit. And I think I was patient and really let this sit, which is not always my strong suit, is just kind of letting it be. But I literally just put the gas on and I disconnected the liquid line and was like, okay, I can't have any of this. I got to just let it be. But I think it made a big difference. Like actually letting it sit and do its thing really made a big difference with this one. But I sent it into another competition and I didn't medal. So I was a little disappointed after.
What do those idiots know?
Right? I don't know. I trust you guys. I think you guys have a better palate or something like that.
For Kolsch, yeah. You should, before the competition, I'm downing cigars and cheeseburgers. And let's do this. My palate's refined. On the cold side of this batch, what you say you use a plastic fermenter? Is it under pressure or is it not under pressure? And then what strain did you pitch?
I just used the German Ale Kolsch White Labs yeast. I did make a starter, but no, I don't ferment under pressure. I think I let it sit 2 weeks. It's usually my go-to for ales. I use a hydrometer in the beer to kind of see when things are done, but and then straight to keg. I don't do any kind of filtering, but I did use Clarity Firm with this. I've used Clarity Firm my last few batches, and it's tough to compare. I don't have anything to compare it to, but it does look. This beer I dropped very clear. I think this beer got very clear.
Crystal clear.
Yeah. So, and that was, I'm sure time had a lot to do with that too, but yeah, I was real happy with just the appearance of this beer.
Well, like you said earlier, we had to push it back because I had obligations I totally forgot about. And then Todd was like, well, people are going to be pissed. And I was like, I don't know if they will. And more 99% of people who wrote me back, actually 100% of people who replied back to me were like, "Oh, an extra wheat? Thank you. That's fantastic."
Totally. Yeah.
Time is always a Kolsch's best friend.
Yeah.
We took my Kolsch that I brewed. It was 15 days old by the time we started serving it on the floor of HomebrewCon. And I transferred, but I didn't filter. So I had it in a keg. I did primary. I had it in a keg. And then I transferred after letting that keg just sit in cold crash for like 4 days. And it wasn't as clear as I wanted it to be there, but the taste was good. Fast forward to my dad's 4th of July party this past Saturday, and the other keg of Kolsch that was just sitting in cold conditioning that whole time, it was beautiful. It tasted great. It was beautiful. Time is a Kolsch's friend. Obviously patience isn't my strong point either, but for you, if you're not doing a competition, you said 2 weeks of fermentation. What's your ideal time from brew day to my Kolsch is now ready to give to my friends and family and enjoy?
Like probably at least 3 weeks in the kegerator, just kind of sitting there, like I can't I could, I guess, but I don't cold crash. So I just, it goes into the keg at fermentation temperature, and then it just goes right in the kegerator. And there's usually like a good pint or two of sediment that I need to just ditch at the outset, but I think a good 3 weeks. This one was longer for sure, but a good 3 weeks, and it's tasting pretty good.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm similar, and I use words synonymously. I cold crash in my fridge as well, which my fridge is at 38 maybe or 37. Yeah. So it's not quite as cold as a true cold crash would be. But 3 weeks is that sweet spot for Kolsch to be like, it is ready. I want people to try it. 'Cause, I mean, you could serve it greener, right? Or fresher, but it's not going to be bright. And that's part of like for me, the allure of giving friends and family beer is the presentation too. Like,
totally.
If there's ever floaties in it or something, I'm always like, oh crap.
No, it's like a kind of way. It's like a homebrewer show off kind of flex to give somebody a pint of like dead clear beer.
Absolutely. And so you said this one ranks towards the top. Is your bottling process using like a counter pressure bottle filler to come off the keg?
That's right.
How's your experience been with that? Like you
It's all right. It's a little messy, but I think I've finally I've only had it for about 9 months, and I think I'm finally kind of dialing it in, but my tower isn't quite high enough. And so I've got a connector hose. It's a little wonky of a process, but it works pretty good. I try to send, I try and enter my beers in at least one competition to kind of get feedback about, what people are thinking. I feel like that's, I think I got to a point where that's kind of the most helpful. My friends just say, yeah, that's great. Like I need somebody else to tell me like, this is what needs tweaking or adjusting. But
yeah, I think you'll be happy with 3 of the 4 judges at Kolsch Cup. Mine was very elementary. I apologize ahead of time. Mine was, this is great. This is good. James was breaking it down, and Wes was breaking it down. And Todd, I think gave a decimal point on yours just to piss me off because I told him we're not doing decimals. But then he said, then he was like, I'm doing decimals. I do whatever I want. I'm interested. You don't have to name and shame the people that didn't medal your Kolsch, but that competition, what was the feedback they gave you? Have you gotten that scorecard yet?
I haven't gotten the scorecards yet. No, I think they're probably available, and I just haven't gone on and looked at them. But I think it was, I don't know how many beers there were in the category, or I think I don't even remember what one for the category, but yeah, I was a little disappointed there. I kind of wanted a nice run with this beer. There's none left now; it's long gone. So. But I'll take Kolsch Cup. It's a nice achievement.
Prestigious, man.
I don't need to win every single competition. I'll take this. This is pretty cool.
Well, what's your past or what's your history with competition? Have you, since you've been brewing and making what you believe to be good beer, you're like, I should enter it?
I mean, it's fun to enter. I started just doing local ones here. I was part of a homebrew club for a while before COVID, and it kind of died. But that was kind of, we all agreed to just kind of commit to this. Like, let's just make sure we're sending each beer we brew off to at least one competition. There were times where we would all enter a category, which was kind of fun. We'd all agree to like brew a specific beer and all enter it into the same competition, the same category. But I like the feedback. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Master Homebrew program, but I started doing that a little while ago, and that's been great to just kind of diversify the things that I'm brewing and enter competitions where, like I won some ribbons at the county fair, which is fun to do with like 30 people that enter, and like sending something off to like Blue Bonnet or something like that is kind of a different story. You're competing against people who are very good at this. So,
and also competitors with experience for the most part.
With experience. And I think this Kolsch Cup too, it's like, we're all just brewing one beer and there's a ton of us doing it. So, different from other competitions for sure.
Yeah. Obviously I'm biased and tooting my own horn that Kolsch Cup is the most prestigious, but I will say this is the first time we did it. We had some standouts and we had some awful. This year, pretty much all of them were really good. Like it was difficult where Todd after the first day was like, I really like, cause we took just the top 10 scores.
Yeah.
And it was like, I really hope the people that were on the bubble, know that how much we love their beer. They just were on the bubble. Like that. Not everyone can advance. Unfortunately, I would love a Kolsch Cup where I don't even know how to do it, but when people get their scorecards, which again, I promise everyone they got mailed yesterday, today's Thursday, the 6th. So you should be getting it soon, but I hope they realize when they read it, their feedback, they realize, oh, I didn't make top 10, but holy hell, my combined score between these two judges on day one was an 88 or whatever, out of 100. And I didn't realize too until James showed me some of his scorecards or talked about his scorecard from NHC. They score some stuff real low and with positive feedback though. Like they're like, oh, you got a 29, but it was phenomenal. It was good and this and that. I'm like, wait, what? Are we doing it wrong? Like we're just following the scorecard, how it says. How can someone get a 29 and the feedback is like, this was a great example of this beer, but it was, it's wild.
Yeah, I'm not a judge. I've never done anything like that, but I know people who have described like, a lot of the time at the table, they start off with that first beer and it's kind of like an arbitrary score. And it's not arbitrary. They've got categories and stuff, totally. But it's like, and then they've got to do everything else kind of around that first beer. They're always kind of comparing it to that first one. So they kind of set a number and then kind of hover around it.
Yeah. Well, that almost so Todd and James, the guy who got second place was their first beer, I think, for the first day. And so they were like, had high
starting off
really good. And Wes and I think the first beer we did ended up getting 8th place, but we both started off randomly. I just pulled them from the fridge. Phenomenal beer. And it's like, oh crap. Like what? Cause like you said, in your mind, you're thinking, I can't compare the other beers to that first one when I'm scoring, but it's hard not to compare every subsequent beer. I've learned as we read through the BJCP program. Well, I'm not an official judge and not going through the program, but reading the book enough, realizing like, oh my God, the guys that do this, I wouldn't say for a living. I don't think anyone's a judge for a living, but the guys who do this like at the pro level for NHC and other big competitions, I don't see how obviously they're not putting their personal information on their scorecards and all that. They don't want the death threats.
Most scorecards they got an email address and a name on them for the most part. But
you'd send it like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know what you would say. Yeah, I don't know. You scored my beer wrong. I don't know.
George, my friend, I'm no stranger to hate mail. Even on our 1-star reviews on iTunes, I'm no stranger to critical feedback, as I call it. I actually like replying to those people very kindly, like, thank you for taking the time to tell me you think I'm an idiot, and blah, 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 blah. It's the best ever. Thank you. Anyways, I'm digressing. Todd and James aren't here to rein me in. I want to talk about your boys' trip to Denver, just in the fact that, that was all coincidence that you were doing this trip during Kolsch Cup. And that y'all have
total coincidence. Yeah.
So tell me, you knew your number and you knew when we were judging it. Do you remember when in the competition we were judging yours? Like, was it towards the beginning or the end? I think
we missed the live part. I think we were just watching we got back from kind of a big night and I was like, oh, I got the results from this. And I put it on the iPad and, we're just kind of watching you guys run through the last 3 or 4 there. And, third place came, second place came, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way. And then, but it was great. Like I was around 4 of my buddies, and
No way.
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Did they think that you bribed us, or do they know you brewed good beer? Like these guys had your beer.
I did bring some beer with me. I think we had a Kolsch there. I think we might have had one right as we found out about the announcement, but so they did get to taste it. But,
okay, they know the style. They probably were like, yes, dude, this is. Yeah. And I apologize. I butchered your name at first. George Kolcun. I should have reached out to you before, but yeah, no, I just love that because that is such like, you were talking about competitions and entering. My secret is I make up a bunch of organizations and then I make trophies for them and then I line my office with them. So I am award winning technically. It's self-award, but how cool is that though with your good friends to be there and actually and get the grand champion to our dozens of listeners and watchers. No, I did that super cool. And then you have the whole trip back, and you had some of that Kolsch still at home, or you hadn't? Because
I think I had maybe 1 or 2 bottles left of it. I think I brewed a couple of weeks ago, and I think we drank the last of it on my last brew day. But
I love it.
Yeah, that one went fast.
You got to brew another batch. That's all.
Yeah, no, they can always make more. I encourage everybody to come over, have a couple beers. It just means I get to make some more. We talked about your brewing setup and that. Let's talk about your draft side. Like you're brewing a bunch basically every 3 weeks. Is your draft side appropriate to match that? Do you have like a 10-tap kegerator that you're drawing from? No, God, no. Yeah, no, it's only a 2-tap kegerator, but I've got 3 or 4 kegs, and sometimes there's something in a bigger fridge just kind of waiting. I think this Kolsch might have gone in the garage fridge for a little while. I was just kind of, I put a bunch of gas on it, and I think I just stuck it in the fridge for a while. But yeah, usually just 2 on tap. I try and make sure that, it's not the same old thing over and over again, and try and, again, kind of try and brew for the seasons. So I've got a Mexican lager on tap, and I've got a pale ale on tap right now.
Oh, that's awesome. And is it like one of those turnkey, like my pop and I have those turnkey kegerators with the tower on top of it? Oh, perfect.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that setup because aesthetically it has that bar feel to it. They fit in, they're good. They're good at fitting in smaller spots. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, like my mom allows it in my dad's place. Yeah. Like I had one here, and my wife was like, well, it was at our last house, but when I got rid of it, now my wife's happy, and happy wife, happy life, something like that. But for let's start with I like segueing. I like talking with homebrewers about like their dream setup on both sides. So let's start with the brewing side. Like you're still brewing in cooler, in mash coolers, the igloo style coolers. Is that like it for you, or do you ever plan on, I'd like to brew bigger batches and on this kind of system if like your wildest dreams came true?
Yeah, I mean, electric brewing is interesting to me just because, especially like being able to do things I can't do, like adjust mash temperature, and have different kind of rest throughout the mash. I can't do that. So I've tried to do it with like additional water infusions, and it just never goes the way I want it to go. But that would be cool. But I can't imagine brewing a bigger batch at this point. I think the 5-gallon batch is just right. And I'm probably one of the few home brewers that doesn't have visions of like opening my own brewery. Like I don't think it's not in the cards for me.
You read my mind. I was going to ask you that because every brewer either has it or they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no middle ground.
It's fun to dream about, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe if we hit the lottery or something like that, I don't know.
Plot twist, though. I bet you don't play the lottery.
No, that's right.
Right. I always tell my dad that, when I win the lottery, he's like, son, do you play the lottery? I was like, Dad, that's not important to what I'm saying. I hear you. Electric brewing, I will say, was game changing for me. Hitting my temperatures on hot side and cold side is actually what was the game changer. So the coolers, like your temperature, your ambient temperature, and people are going to write in and tell me it's not as big a factor, Josh, as you think it is. But like you have predictable weather where I bet you are probably pretty consistent in that mash tun. And I don't know if it's if you're brewing in the garage or whatever. So you're probably pretty consistent on that side. And then like you said, on the cold side, is there anything you would change? Would you add bigger fermentation chamber, or do you want more than 2, or is 2 kind of keeps you in check of the hobby from not snowballing into
going too crazy? Maybe I think I've looked at stainless steel fermenters. I feel like I go to this domino place where it's like, all right, well, if I get a bigger fermenter, I need a bigger fermentation chamber. And I don't know how far down the rabbit hole I want to go with that, but it also works. They're easy to clean. I don't know. I just, sometimes it's like bigger and shinier may not really be necessary. And like, little plastic 6.5 gallon fermenter has been working fine for me. So
I will say I started using Anvil has a Fermenter King, which is a pressure able plastic one. And then Kedland's all rounder. And I have 2 of the 16 gallon, I'm rounding up version, because I do 10 gallon batches. Those things are great and they're cheap. So like for me, if I'm like, I want to add more and I can do them in my office, I can set my office mini split to like, 64. And in the summer, it increases my bill, but it's doable because it's only this little 140 square foot office. Keeping that 64, also under pressure on these plastic affordable fermentation vessels, it's been game changing. Like that Kolsch I brewed, I wholeheartedly think it being that young, but still tasting as good as it was at HomebrewCon was because I was able to do it at 10 PSI. And for, I don't know the science behind it. I don't pretend to. I'd love voicemail feedback from listeners, but that under pressure so far has been keeping off flavors from coming up. And obviously I did it at temperature as well, so that helped too. But plastic, I think, like you said, there is this weird domino effect where, okay, I'm going to up my batch size. I'm going to start doing 15 gallon. Well, now I got to get new fermenting vessels. And do I get one big stainless steel conical for a couple grand, or do I get a bunch of little or one? You can go from zero to thousands of dollars very quick.
Totally true. Yep. Totally true.
But in the dream setup for you, you're like content. Like the dream setup is, no, I actually really enjoy how I'm doing it already.
I do. I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment about, kind of how it goes, sharing it with friends is kind of my number one priority. And I do think it would be fun, sometimes doing a 10 gallon batch and being able to kind of split it and do some fun things with that and use different yeast or play around with hops. Like that would be kind of fun to do. But I could do that with 2.5 gallon smaller kegs or something like that. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the way it's going.
You mentioned the club that you were a part of kind of fizzled during COVID, but right now you're brewing and it's still an experience with friends. You're never doing solo brew day.
It's pretty rare. But there's usually there's like a couple real standbys that'll come over every time I'm brewing. But yeah, it's usually neighbors and friends. I mean, this last one that we had a couple weeks ago, my wife was free and all of her friends came over, and it's fun. They empty the keg so that I can fill it in a couple weeks is the way it goes. But especially this time of year when it's a little less hectic and everybody can kind of hang out in the yard on a Friday afternoon. But there are some rare occasions where I do brew all by myself, but this Kolsch batch wasn't one of them. But
that's awesome. Brewing with community just makes it more fun. Yeah. Do you find your friends are getting more interested in the process of brewing and craft beer and all that as over the years as you've been brewing?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And we have so much good beer around here too. And that makes it so much easier. Like I used to trade with friends of mine back east, and they'd want me to send them, some Pliny, and they'd send me something. And that was great, but it's like, God, I can't try all the beer that's right here in my backyard, let alone mail away for stuff. So, I think that's probably true for most places is there's just like so much great beer to try, like really close to where you live.
It's getting that everywhere, like in Central Texas, the Austin area, I've been spoiled for a long time. and people will ask me like, "Oh, do you go here, here, here?" I'm like, "I haven't tried that beer yet." What are you talking about? I was like, "Bro, I'd be an alcoholic if I tried. I got,
there's not enough time.
There's not enough time.
Yeah, totally.
And I have a job, but despite what my parents think, I really do work for a living. And and I have a family. And it would be a whole different podcast if I was like, Josh goes and tries every single beer on tap in the greater Austin area. I would gain 100 pounds and liver disease and some other stuff. But no, I like that you're doing, like you said, 5 gallons for 95% of people in our hobby is the perfect amount. Because it's a good amount to share with people. If it lasts 6 weeks or 4 to 9 weeks, it's a good keg. And on draft, especially, it's not going bad anytime soon. You have it on gas, and like you said, with your setup, you can swap it in and out with new beers you're brewing and all that. I like that setup. How is your wife a fan of craft beer, or at least a fan of supporting you and your brew?
No, she's supportive. She's not really a beer drinker, but I got the kegerator right before COVID. And, she was like, so there's going to be 10 gallons of beer in the garage on draft, and you're the only person who drinks beer, and we're not allowed to have anybody over to help you. Like, so that was not her favorite, but even then people would drop off growlers. I'd send them home with beer. And, but yeah, I mean, she likes the community. She's more of a wine person than a beer person, but,
y'all are in the area for that. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's we're very much kind of right in ground zero for good wine too. So.
Yeah. I think we're married to the same person. My wife cannot stand beer, and she's like, honey, I'm happy you've made a living doing this. And I'm like, well, sort of, but it's nice to have the support. It's better than the opposite, where I'll be on Reddit sometimes or Homebrew Talk, and people are like, my wife really hates this, and how do I get it? I'm like, bro, you maybe stop brewing, that's right. I'd rather my wife be happy than me have draft beer on tap. But we're very fortunate men to have support systems.
Totally, very true. Yeah.
And does she? But even though she's not a fan of craft beer, is she one of your, like, when you're submitting to a competition, do you have a process of people trying it first before you send the batch, or do you just send it because you brewed it?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, most of it I just send because it's around and I just want to know what people think. But it's usually on tap for a couple of weeks before I bottle, so I don't bottle right away. And so people have usually tried it and given me some feedback, and she'll humor me to be like, try this, I did that. And she'll at least taste it and let me know what she thinks.
Yeah, my wife, like the Kolsch, if it's bright as day, that'll be the only good thing she says. She'll try and it's very pretty and clear. I'm like, okay, hey, that's the feedback. Or
that's a win.
The breakfast stout every time, because she loves coffee. So I'm like, you're gonna like this. Yeah. She'll try and she goes, yes, there is coffee in it, and that's what and then she hands it back to me. I'm like, oh, thanks. I'm trying to segue us into. I forgot to say it at the top of the show, but now is as good a time as any. There is an announcement for us. Let me get through some housekeeping real quick. Patreon members in the Trub Club. You should have got a message about the June kits. We had an issue with some stuff with weevils. I'll leave it at that. Read your stuff at patreon.com/Homebrew Happy Hour. But you're getting that kit. And also, if you're getting July's kit, let me put it on the screen. Boom! It's a delicious Dusseldorf Alt beer. It's James's recipe. It's been tweaked with help from our friend Horst Dornbush, who is the literal author of the alt beer book. The guy knows his stuff. If you want to brew the delicious alt beer from James and Horst, go to patreon.com/Homebrew Happy Hour. Join a recipe receiving tier. You're going to get it thanks to our sponsors, Muntins, Hops Threads, and Imperial Yeast, for providing the premium ingredients for that kit. But George, here's where I want to know, or the final segue. You're a competition man. If you're going to enter up on the screen, you can't see it, George, I apologize, but everyone at home can. The Alt Beer Challenge 2023 is coming. October 19th through the 21st. That's a tentative name. I'm talking to my friend Hannes about an actual German name for this competition, but the Alt Beer Challenge is what I'm calling it, just for the announcement. It is coming. We're having an alt competition. I'm trying to see if we can get Horst into Texas. It's kind of been, we're communicating. We're trying to get, we want to do this right. We want the alt man judging it. Have you brewed an alt beer, my friend? And if so, are you going to enter the?
Never done it.
Never brewed an alt. Now
I feel like now I have to. Yeah, no, I'm obligated now. So yeah, maybe I think that sounds like a good idea.
I tell you what, you don't have to brew this recipe. You brew whatever you want. I will send you the recipe kit as part of I already sent you the trophy and all that. Let me get you with July kits. I'll just I'll put your address on there, and I'll get you the 5-gallon recipe kit, and you can tell me what you think later about how that batch turned out.
All right, thanks, man.
Deal?
Yeah, thank you. That sounds great. I'll totally do that.
You don't have to enter, but it would be cool if you did. How cool would it be to be whatever we end up calling it, but the Alt Champ 2023 and the Kolsch Cup King 2023?
Yeah, man, I don't know. Yeah, I'm room for all those trophies. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
The trophy for Kolsch Cup, when you get it, is it going in your office or is it staying at home? I need to know where it's displayed.
Yeah, I don't think I try to keep the psychology world and the beer world separate. So I don't know if I'm putting it in the office, but it'll have a great spot in the garage right next to the kegerator, I think. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And the Alt Beer Cup is going to be equal. I don't know if you saw the Kolsch Cup trophy on the live stream. It's big. It's big.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I may or may not have drank Kolsch out of it before shipping it to you. I can't confirm or deny that.
That is definitely going to happen when I get it. So,
oh, dude, it's perfect for it, I think. I mean, it looked like it was perfect for it. So we kind of already touched on, you don't have aspirations to go pro, so you're just kind of keep doing the same thing, brewing different beers and entering in competitions, and that that's the future plan for George Colson.
I think so. It's been, it's a fun hobby. I get a lot out of it. I've really enjoyed it. I'd love to connect to the homebrew club again. That's another nice part of it. But there's a couple around here.
Yeah, I love it. And like you said, your state is one of the best beer states in the union, and your area is one of the best. Just that, not central. Well, what part of it? I always call it Central Cali. What do y'all call it?
Yeah, it's Northern California.
Okay, Northern California. Okay. I mean,
everywhere from like San Francisco up is Northern California.
Okay, yeah. Northern California, yeah, beautiful and good weather. Todd actually and James went 2 summers ago and had to buy jackets because it got cold.
Yeah.
It was like
it's cold in the summer. Yeah.
It's weird. But anyways, great beer. But George, thank you so much for your time, my friend. I appreciate you doing the interview. More importantly, I appreciate you sending in one of the best Kolsches I've ever had in my entire life. So,
well, thank you very much. I
even though it had Sterling in it, which I think I'm getting trolled. I'm 90% sure.
This is what I did. Yeah.
I cannot believe it. Todd is just going to be blowing my phone up like, so you're saying the best ever had Kolsch or had Sterling in it. Oh, his smug face is just going to eat at me. But anyways, your recipe, you'll send me, if you would, afterwards we'll connect and we'll offer your actual recipe kit to Trub Club members at some point in the future so that they can also, we did that with the first winner, Brian, and his Kolsch was very well received. And it's so interesting how different yours and his are within the same style and not vastly different, just how you can brew an incredibly an award-winning Kolsch and it not be like 1-to-1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just cool. That's what's cool to me about brewing. We're living in the best time ever where, like you said, you're like, I'm going to use Magnum for this one. And then boom, look, it turned around and really just impressed us beyond belief. So,
well, thanks for the praise there. It feels good to hear. I did enjoy this one. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it too.
Yeah. And I hope you do enter the alt competition when we do it. And like I said,
that would be fun. Yeah.
I'll send you the kit. You have plenty of time to try it and see if it's up for you or not. But anyways, thank you so much for your time, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Josh.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or you can call, leave a voicemail, be Todd's best friend, and get yourself a $25 gift card when you use our voicemail hotline at 325-305-6107. Thank you to our sponsors like Munton's Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Munton Malts, give them a try by joining our Trub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join the Trub Club. Again, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of the absent Todd Burns and absent James Carlson, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.